I'd like to state that I'm a man who lives in a small town. It's barely 2 miles long with only a dirt road going straight through it. But I like this town because of its nice scenery. The neighborhood was peaceful and everything was just a simple walk away. There are a lot of stores in my town, and I mean a lot. There was a tailor, a carpenter shop, grocery stores, and a bar. And there was another store I forgot to list. It was in the middle of my town. It was an old VHS store that was owned by a nice old lady. It was always in top condition due to the old lady's dedication to it, which I found it to be odd to say the least. But to each their own, I guess. One day the store was having a sale. Everything was 50% off. I got into the store out of pure intrigue. I then saw a particular VHS that stood out. It was a Spongebob VHS. It was in a large case like most VHS items in there. The cover was an image of half of SpongeBob's face, with only his eyes showing. His eyes were closed with a thought bubble of smiling fishes, smiling plants, and what looked like SpongeBob's hands reaching out to grasp him. On the side, it said, in the show's font, "Happy Place." The other side had the back of SpongeBob's head. There was what looked like a small smiley face etched into his head, though it looked quite faded. There was also no description about the episode, text being replaced with, "SpongeBob finds joy in the pure fields of his mind." I found it weird as a whole. I've never seen this episode before, and the text on the back made it even weirder. I decided to buy it out of sheer curiosity, since I might have found a rare unreleased episode. It was around $1 when I got it. I asked the old lady about it. She just said that she got it along with the rest of the other tapes. She was interested in it as I was, but didn't pay any mind to it, probably due to her job. I walked out the store and walked to my house, which was just a mile's walk from the town. When I got home, I hooked up my VCR, putting it underneath the old TV. I hoped to see what the VHS contents had in store for me. I put the VHS in the VCR, sitting down on my small living room couch. The VHS made the standard startup noise and then the select screen popped up. I saw the title card. It said "Happy Place" in the show's font. The letters were in pink. The text was smaller compared to the other title cards from the show. The background was brown with the center of the flowers being green. Maybe it was just an episode where SpongeBob got stressed at work and found a happy place, I thought. I selected it since there wasn't any other option. The episode immediately started with SpongeBob and Patrick outside his house. There was only a single note of the theme song, and it cut to him with Patrick. They were doing their usual antics as they did in the show, running around and laughing. Then SpongeBob saw something. It was shiny and white. He looked over at it with curiosity, but before he could get over to walk to it, Patrick called out his name. SpongeBob immediately ran over to him, but stopped halfway. He then quickly glanced back over to the object, looking over his shoulder, then over to his friend, then back at the shiny object.
"My friend needs me, but that thing over there looks pretty neat.
He thought to himself for a minute or two, his thumb and index finger resting between his bottom lip and the middle of his chin while he was thinking, and his brows furrowed. It cut to a view of his legs, walking towards the object without SpongeBob knowing it. He immediately snapped out of his thoughts and looked down.
"Barnacles, my curiosity got the best of me yet again,"
he said as he snapped his fingers in defeat.
"Well, I better get a closer look at this thingy Myuu set,"
he said in his usual upbeat voice. I was pretty intrigued myself, seeing as how well done this episode was so far. He bent over and got a closer look at the object. It looked like a kitchen knife of some sort. The handle was dark green with a strange pattern on it, like a mix of spirals and swirls. The blade was pearl white, with an iridescent looking finish to it. It appeared to have writing on the heel of it. SpongeBob picked the knife out and began to read the writing on it. The video began to distort a bit as he read it.
"The happiest place to be is in your head."
It then went back to normal in an instant. It weirded me out a bit, but that didn't stop me from watching. Well, that sounds kind of funny.
Patrick, come over here. I found something.
The starfish walked over to him, looking at SpongeBob annoyed. SpongeBob, I called out your name over and over. What are you... Oh, what's that? Patrick's mood changed as soon as he saw what SpongeBob was holding.
It's a knife, Patrick. I'm surprised you don't know.
SpongeBob explained. Patrick took a closer look at it. His face immediately went pale as soon as he saw the message on the knife's heel. His colors looked more white like the knife. Patrick's mouth was in a scared frown and his eyes were wide, his pupils looking like dots. He looked like he just saw a ghost possess someone. SpongeBob! I have a bad feeling about that thing. I don't know what. Please, don't. SpongeBob then looked up, seeing the sun going down.
Oh, it's afternoon already. Well, Pat, sorry to cut this short, but I gotta get to bed. See ya, buddy.
SpongeBob interrupted Patrick's warning as he jogged back into his pineapple house, stuffing the knife in his back pocket. Patrick still looked shell-shocked from what he saw. Dear Neptune, please be merciful on us. He found your gift, he prayed. This was getting more weird. Patrick was supposed to be the dimwit of SpongeBob's friends. Why is he so worried about SpongeBob finding a knife? His back was slouched forward as he shakily walked to his rock house. As SpongeBob went to his room to sleep, for some odd reason he sat up on the side of his bed and pulled the knife out, looking like he was admiring its details.
Why is Patrick so paranoid of this knife? It's kinda nice to look at,
he teased to himself. As he finished saying that, he began to look like he was spacing out as he gazed at the quote on the heel of the knife. His pupils began to expand until it almost filled his eyes. Then he saw the room filled with smiling faces. Everything in the room was smiling and laughing. He began to smile and look up with his expanded pupils, looking like his eyes were about to roll in the back of his head.
The happiest place is in my mind, and I want to share it with all.
Then I saw SpongeBob looking down at the knife shakily. His eyes now large and ovoid in shape, with the same expanded pupils. The room now expanding with more faces growing all over the place, and the laughter sounding more hard and crazed. Then he looked up. His eyes, they were dark green now. The screen went black for almost a split second, like it was a blink. I was surprised at what I was seeing. It was so surreal, but I wasn't going to let a weird episode from a kid's show freak me out too much. It then came back to SpongeBob's room, now back to its normal state, now in complete shambles. The room was covered in holes, like someone stabbed it over and over in a frenzy. The floor had scratch marks all over it, the wallpaper was ripped apart and also had the same stab marks on it, and the furniture was destroyed as well. Pan over to SpongeBob sleeping happily in his bed, also partly destroyed, but not as much as the rest of the room, giggling only for a small second. Did I just see SpongeBob go into a stabbing frenzy and destroy his room? I was completely baffled at how weird and morbid this all was, but I kept on watching. The next day came, but there was no time card to show it. It just faded in with SpongeBob in his tarnished room, smiling cheerfully all to himself, his eyes still large and ovoid. His pupils were still that deep shade of green, but his pupils weren't as expanded as last time. There were bags under his eyes, but they looked like they were scribbled under his eyes. He looked disheveled and apparently slept in his clothes as well, looking dirty and uneven in some places. But he continued to smile as usual, but it felt wrong this time. It was drawn more angular at his cheeks, and the two from the teeth weren't visible. It cut to him skipping down the stairs, almost missing the last two of them. The stairs looked disproportionate and somewhat broken. He went to the kitchen to get some breakfast, noticing that the knife was on the table. Gary was in the corner of the kitchen, cowering in fear as soon as SpongeBob entered the room.
Hey, Gary, my favorite pet in the entire Bikini Bottom. You look hungry. Let me feed you and fill your stomach with lots of goody goodies.
He sounded so happy and cheery that it sounded so unnatural for this character and unnerving to the situation. Gary became more terrified of him as he skipped gleefully to the fridge and grabbed the handle with a powerful looking grip. The movement of the grab was so quick that it was like light speed. He then threw the fridge open, his eyes skimming over its contents. They looked dilated and devoid of life. He then found the snail food and forcefully gripped the bag, his fingers looking like they were going to burst open the bag. He ripped the bag open and slammed the fridge door shut, the sound being so loud that it could have broken its hinges on impact. SpongeBob then poured the frightened snail his food, his expression still stuck to that smile. Gary started to move away from SpongeBob, as if he was completely terrified of him. The view was stuck to Gary's level as SpongeBob went over to get his breakfast, which appeared to be cereal. It panned to him making it. Still on Gary's point of view, he began to eat the cereal with that knife, smiling and humming to himself. I didn't know how to feel at this moment. It was all so weird. Does SpongeBob have a mental breakdown the night before? Why is Gary so terrified of him? Why is SpongeBob so fixated on that knife? I immediately suspected the knife had something to do with it. It cut to SpongeBob walking down the street, possibly to go to work, the knife in his back pocket. I sank in my seat, thinking that SpongeBob was going to do something very, very bad. As he was walking, he saw other fishes on the sidewalk. He began to slow down and stare at them with his dark green eyes. He imagined himself attacking all of them with the knife and laughing dementedly. He smiled at that thought with that same creepy smile. He looked like he was lost in thought, while the other fishes looked at him weirdly. Sir? Are you okay? One of the fish questioned.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm just thinking,
He muttered, giggling like a schoolgirl as he skipped all the way to the Krusty Krab. It cut to him with Krabs and SpongeBob in his office.
Ahoy, SpongeBob! It has come to my attention that you've been acting mighty strange lately. Care to explain?
The red crustacean asked in a concerned tone.
Well, you see, Mr. Krabs, I've been having weird thoughts as of late. They're very mean ones, too, ever since I found this.
He pulls out the knife from his back pocket, his pupils expanding from just looking at it. Mr. Krabs immediately becomes intimidated, yet frightened by the knife. It was like he too knew what the knife is.
Boyo, you need to seek mental help. That knife isn't gonna bring you good. Trust me, you don't want to know what happened to the last person's mental state when they had it. It won't do you any good keeping it around you for long.
SpongeBob again began to space out as Mr. Krabs continued to speak. The room was covered with smiling faces, sound of laughter, and began to say awful things about Mr. Krabs. How he was so greedy that he'll never share anything, that SpongeBob was innocent, and that Mr. Krabs was going to take his happy place away. Mr. Krabs' voice was barely audible at this point, being blocked out by laughter and the chanting.
Why are you giving me that look? What's wrong with your eyes? You're starting to scare me, boy.
Mr. Krabs shivered, but SpongeBob was too busy looking up at him with his expanded pupils and smiling as he began to walk forward to Mr. Krabs' desk, giggling like a child. I was completely surprised, yet very engaged as I continued to watch the tape. I never thought that SpongeBob, the show's main character, a fun-loving sponge, would lose his mind because of a knife he found. Then I had a startling thought. Was the knife cursed? I know it may sound stupid, but at least it makes sense. SpongeBob finds a knife that belonged to the person who also fell for it, and becomes taken by it like the previous owner. Was it a gift to Neptune, like Patrick said? So many questions filled my head over what was going on. It honestly was pretty cool to see something like this. It was like the creators wanted to put some lore into the show. Maybe it was too creepy and it got cut. I continued to watch on. It faded in with a title card saying, "In the Asylum." and it cut to Spongebob in a white padded room, wearing a straitjacket, giggling and chanting.
This is my happy place, so white and quiet.
Then the camera zooms in slowly on Spongebob in the corner, looking more disheveled and devoid of life. The knife distorted into view, and near his crossed legs, the world around him and the knife began to morph into the same smiling faces from earlier. They began to mutate and fuse into each other as the changed colors began to warp and swirl into different smiling visages, and the audio was indescribable as well. It was like an awful mix of bass, gut-wrenching laughter, screaming and white noise. It continued to get worse and worse as it zoomed out. Spongebob and the knife still in view. He was on his side, his arms tugging from inside the straitjacket. It then cut to black with the text, "Thanks for watching my thing," in brightly colored marker. It was like someone was very, very angry when they wrote it. The VHS then ended with a faint giggle of a girl. It took a while for me to get myself together after watching that. It was so surreal and strange, seeing SpongeBob slowly descending into madness by what I presume to be a cursed knife. It was very unique for a kid's cartoon, I guess. I put the VHS away and collected my thoughts. I still don't know who made it, but I have a theory that the creator was just stressed with their own thoughts and wanted to make a cartoon about it. It was the only theory that made sense anyways. Well, that was an interesting SpongeBob story, I guess. For the record, I am way past the target audience for this show. I'm like 25 years old now as of this video, and like I haven't seen the show since like 2013 or something. But, I still remember like the first 3 seasons and a bit of season 4 pretty fondly. Had a lot of good jokes that I still reference every now and then with friends. But anyways, the story, the grammar isn't good. I had to do multiple takes on some parts of it because, the wording was weird, or like some words were like copied twice in a row or something like that. Like, it's not the most poorly grammared story out there. I mean, I've read much worse, like Sonic.exe and its sequel. But nah, like I said, this could definitely, had a cleanup of, some sort. But setting that aside, how is the overall story? At least the idea of it. Well, it's not the most cliched story out there. Well, granted, the whole idea of a knife being the deadly weapon is definitely cliche. I mean, really, it feels like every author resorts to knife as the deadly weapon, which is like, I mean, I guess that's just what people use out there, I guess, to kill their friends or something. I mean, it didn't, explicitly said SpongeBob kill like anyone here. It does imply that, SpongeBob attacked Mr. Krabs. But besides that, nobody's explicitly written to be dead or something. And, I don't know, I feel like the whole idea of SpongeBob going mad over some cursed object, I kind of like the idea of a lost episode for that. Instead of like SpongeBob becoming a murderer straight up, it's just more like, he ran into an object that was like cursed by, I guess, the gods of the sea. And over time, it just took over his mind. But like, everything happened over the course of one night, and then, well, a day later. It's all so sudden, also quick. I feel like if there was like more time spent with this cursed object, like at first it didn't affect SpongeBob too much, but then gradually he started to go obsess over it. And like something else in his life is affecting him. Like he's been having a streak of bad days, and the knife is just kind of, becoming that happy place he resorted to like over time before it eventually consumed him. Also, I probably would have changed that knife into something else, like, say, I know this is cliche for the show, but like a spatula, because, hey, Spon was a fry cook, the spatula is his signature tool. I feel like in a way where instead of like a golden spatula of like, only those worthy can have it, it's a cursed spatula. It's like a curse to his career, or, well, if you can call being a fry cook a career. I also liked that the story didn't went to some background lore about who created the episode or something. It's just like the narrator's just trying to guess what could be the background of the story. Like, why did someone create this? Like, nobody knows? All we can do is just theorize about it. I like that. I think more stories need to just stick to that instead of like, oh yeah, I contacted some guy who works at Nickelodeon and they just gave me, all the reasons behind this episode and who made it, and that guy got fired and something like that. Like, no, like, you can only guess who or what, why, just why would this exist, I like that. Overall, I don't think the story is great, but if it were fleshed out more, I think it could be something pretty good. Besides, having, improving the grammar and everything, I think like having just more of what's going on, extended to be a complete story would really make it a great one, I think. And again, even though I'm not the target audience for SpongeBob these days, hey, who says I can't read a creepy story about children's cartoons? Or a COD Zombies mod about it, I guess. But yeah, that's SpongeBob VHS Happy Place. Not the worst story out there, but definitely can be better. If there's any more stories out there you can recommend, doesn't have to be SpongeBob related, just could be anything really, like other stories about other shows, maybe some game stories and all that stuff, you can always recommend it, whether it be good or bad, and I'll consider it when I have the time. Well, but that's all there. Enjoy the upcoming winter here in the United States. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are. Take care.